Hi everyone. Today I will be doing the tech talk for DeliBird. DeliBird is the app I made at HackSC, a hackathon hosted at USC, University of Southern California. And what the app is it's a commerce app, and I made this app so that any amateur person could buy and sell things that they would like. It's sort of like a mobile version of Craigslist. And when you use this app, you could use it as a buyer or a seller. And for the purpose of the demo, I will be a buyer on one end and a seller for the other. As you can see, the views are completely separate. So let me just go ahead and start by explaining the side on the seller side. On the seller side, you have these toggle buttons. Currently open, what the currently open does is it lets the buyer that's following you, it lets them know if you're currently open or not. The hide from public, what it does is that if you turn this one on, it makes sure that you don't show up at a general search on the buyer side and only allow buyers to follow you if they know your business ID. And since this is a commerce app, there is going to be transactions, and you could enable and disable for PayPal or Venmo. And the five categories here: food, sweets, collectibles, garage sales, and clothing. These are five main categories that I thought would be very nice for the app to target. So food, for example, this app would be really nice for food trucks, and for sweets it'd be something like Girl Scouts trying to sell their cookies. Collectibles, I'm not sure if many of you are familiar with collectibles, but I personally know a lot of people who collect baseball cards and such, and it'd be nice to be able to buy and sell collectibles with these. Garage sales, when people have garage sales, it's really hard to let the public know that there's a garage sale going on, and this app could attack that issue. And clothing is pretty self explanatory. Everyone buys and sells clothes. So, anytime you toggle any of these on the coding side, what it's doing is it's doing um, a put server request using REST API calls. And let me see. And moving on to the products. So on the products, this is the actual list of stuff that you are selling. As you can see, you could there's categories and there's items. So you could add a category, and let's say demo category. And for every category, you could add items. Um, food, one, and then let's say for the price, we'll just put $20. Okay, and what the up button does is it within the category you could move the stuff. So now, before the BB root was at the bottom, now it's at the very top. And once you're done, you could go ahead and press upload. And again, it sends that to the server. And now, um, so for this one, it was just a basic table view controller, and you just have two types of cells. You have the category cells and the item cells, and you just code those respectively. Now going on to text. So text, what it does is you could actually send text messages from the app to anyone in your contacts list, letting them know that you're using this app to sell stuff. And what it does is it sorts of sends a text that's in the format of something like, "Hi, I'm trying to sell items," or there's a list of stuff I'm trying to sell on this app. It lets them know what the app is, and it also lets them know what your business ID is, so that they could, if they want to, they could download the app and they could enter in your business ID and follow you as a buyer. So you just go ahead and click someone, and then you click send, and then it sends them the text message. And going back to settings, for the text messaging, what I used was Twilio's SMS API. And yes, so now moving on to the buyer side. On the buyer side, you have a My Merchant section where it's a table view of all the sellers who you are following. As you can see, we're following the seller who's actually on this side, and their business ID is Masa, which is my name. So you could add existing merchants. You just search by the business ID, And as you can see, you see the follow button, but the follow button won't do anything since currently you're already following them. And how I set up the database for this is that when you click search, what it does is takes this business ID, queries through your backend database with the business ID and retrieves the business that has the business ID below. And I forgot to mention this, but for the database or for the backend side, I use Node.js with MongoDB. And yeah, so now going back here, going to search. So what the search is you could turn these on, the same five categories that you saw earlier here. So what this does for the buyer side is that if you're looking for any of these, you could turn these on. You can specify a distance that you want to be notified at. So let's say I disable these for only leave food on, and I put it to somewhere around 3 miles. So now what this is doing is that anytime that there is a seller within 3.19 miles in the range of you who is selling food, it will notify you with a push notification saying, hey, there's this person selling food. And then you'll be able to see the list of items they're selling. And if you want to follow the seller, you will be able to follow the seller. And how it's doing in the code, now this part was actually one of the most difficult parts in code. What it's actually doing is I broke down um, the globe into chunks of tiny squares using the latitude and longitude. And um, for every latitude and longitude, I have a small database that stores the array of all the sellers and all the buyers. And whenever your location updates, it checks with the server with using that location. It checks to see if there's anyone near you by looking through the array. And then once you look through the array, what it's doing is making sure that what they're selling is matching with what you're looking for. And if that is, the server end the on the node sends you a push notification on to your app, letting you know that there is a seller that's selling you what you want. And you could just go ahead and update, and then you go back. So now the one last thing for the buyer side is that once you follow a seller, you could click on the seller like this, as you can see, and you could see the first thing you see is the list of items that they're selling, and there's the demo category that we inputted previously right here. And as you can see, it's always lively updating. As long as they do upload, um, it will update on this side. Um, every time you click, it does a server request to make sure that you get the most updated list of items that they're selling. Now moving on, there's this map. So the map, it actually maps out the location of the seller. So this is really useful if the seller is mobile. So food trucks, Girl Scouts, they're always moving around. It's really nice to be able to see where they're at. And on the seller side, as long as they're public and as long as they're not hiding from the public, the GPS location will be shared. Now let me just go ahead and show you a demonstration of movement. I'm gonna go ahead and go to the location. Custom location. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and enter a custom location. Okay. The location does not seem to be updating. Let me just go ahead and it might have not been a actual location that's valid. Okay, as you can see, it dynamically updates. I'm not sure what was wrong with the previous one. I might have misclicked something, but as you can see, it dynamically updates. So if the seller was in a car, this red pin over here would always constantly be moving. And once you actually get to the seller, you want to make the transaction. So there's a payments. And Now cash is pretty outdated, and the period of time where, or it's really outdated since that we have stuff such as Venmo and PayPal, and now you could just say how much you're trying to pay, and you got to pay by Venmo or PayPal, and it will let you know what the amount that you're trying to do to do the payment for. And that's pretty much it for the app. That's the Venmo API, PayPal API. Oh, and for this explain, but for the map, what it's doing is that every time either one of the GPS location updates, you could actually configure that. It's built in with the um, Apple's GPS frameworks, and you could specify how big of a distance they have to move before it um, that does the GPS request, so that you're not killing the app's you're not killing the user's battery. So it's not always constantly fetching the GPS, and that lowers the the data transmission within the app as well. So your users will for so the users will be happy. And when it does make a change in location, it sends the updated location to the database, and once it sends that to the database, the buyer has an array of sellers, and respectively, the sellers have an array of their buyers. And if your own updates, then you send a send a push into the array of all the sellers or the buyers that are following you, um, and that's once that push is made, that's what's actually um, causing it to change on live. And what I used for the pushing for this app specifically, I used Cinch's API for instant messaging, and it's actually an invisible instant message, sort of like a Facebook chat. It's a invisible chat that is being sent in the background back and forth so that everything is lively updating. And that's pretty much it for the app. Thank you so much for listening.